Hi, I'm Mary Kopczynski, the CEO of RegAlytics. Welcome to this week's regulatory roundup, and it's a very happy day because RegAlytics was named in the 2022 edition of the RegTech 100. The RegTech 100 is an annual list of 100 of the world's most innovative RegTech companies selected by a panel of industry experts. Woohoo! The regulators of the week are Idaho and South Dakota. Remember a couple years ago when Idaho and South Dakota were in a race to be the least regulated state? Well, this week, the Cato Institute put out the latest index of personal freedom, and hilariously, to me, of course, Idaho and South Dakota were the two states to put something out in a press release about it. Mind you, the report this year doesn't include COVID-related analysis, so it will obviously change the rankings, but New Hampshire came out as the #1 most free state, but that doesn't stop Idaho from bragging for being ranked in the top 10. And then, like Idaho's obsessed and competitive younger sister, South Dakota, which has been gunning to replace Idaho as the least regulated state, is actually disappointed in its top 5 ranking, insisting that it can do better. The topic of the week is cybersecurity guidance. NIST has released final IoT specific guidance to federal organizations. So if you are in a company that has anything to do with devices that record data, Internet of Things, I would eyeball that for cybersecurity standards, because if the government's going to hold itself to this standard, then you probably should at least do what they're going to do for themselves. Also, the third installment of guidance from the NSA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and the Enduring Security Framework experts came out to advise people on safety around the 5G core cloud infrastructure. And to round out the topic of the week, if you don't follow rules for cyber, not only can you get in trouble, but you can suffer losses from attacks like the one that the DOJ recently put a 34-year-old Russian into 60 months of prison for doing. He was providing bulletproof hosting services, which were used by cyber criminals between 2009 to 2015 to distribute malware and attack financial institutions and victims throughout the United States. In other fun news, RegAlytics is now covering China, and it's been interesting to watch. Officials from the China Securities Regulator Commission answered reporters' questions this week regarding the Evergrande Group. They said it's a one-off case about a single company that was reckless, and that China's real estate industry remains robust. In Compliance Corner, the CFPB is looking closely at overdraft fees for both big and small banks, noticing it is actually a huge revenue build, yet it has such a harsh impact on consumers. So I would not be surprised if we start seeing limits there. Similarly, the OCC put out a report on the federal banking system and the impact of COVID. They note that while banks are resilient, there's a really weak loan demand, which is no surprise since it's easy to get disaster loans right now, but also low interest margins, which doesn't make banks seem super healthy. It's kind of like a skinny person who eats chocolate and never exercises. They look fit, but they're a heart attack waiting to happen. Fed is also looking at the health of the economy this week from the credit card perspective. Consumer credit card balances in the US experienced unprecedented declines during the pandemic, and I mean like 11%, $120 billion decline, the largest in recorded history. Again, I think it's because disaster loans, and also because spending is down because we're not paying for dry cleaning or transportation or fancy parties and flights. Plus, if you want to buy something, it's on back order anyway. Crazy times, really. Finally, for the regulatory people at the big monster financial institutions, 2 items of note this week. 1, the Fed wrote a comment on CECL, which is CECL, noting that it was the new accounting framework that started in 2020 and had to launch during one of the most unprecedented times in economic history. The report has charts and graphs and comparison sets, and it's very interesting, so go look. The second is that the SEC is proposing amendments to the electronic record keeping requirements for broker dealers, security based swap dealers, and major security based swap participants. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's okay. That's it this week for RegAlytics. See you next week on LinkedIn and YouTube.